We are joined by one of the winners today, Sevian. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What are your initial thoughts after this game?
Yeah, it was a very good game, I think. I got an opening advantage and then converted pretty nicely in the end game.
Yeah, and maybe you could take us through some of the highlights.
Yeah.
You mentioned the opening. I saw that this idea occurred in one game yesterday.
Exactly, yeah. I didn't know this idea until yesterday. So this bishop d3 was played yesterday by Alan Picot, I think, against Mishra. And the idea is if you play a6 and try to play knight or play dragon with g6, I play c4 and get a Moroxy bind. So knight c6 is logical. Bishop e3, and again, I want to play c4 if you allow me. There are many setters, but the most ambitious one is the one he tried with g6. H3, bishop g7, c4. And here he spent kind of a lot of time. I think he was trying to figure out if he should play castle, knight c3, and then with the typical plans, bishop d7, queen a5. But I think he rejected it because it's just a bit passive for black. Let's say bishop d7. I think yesterday's game was castle. And then if you play knight e5, I can just play b3, knight takes d3, queen takes d3, f4, rook a1 is just a very easy game for white. So he went for knight g4, which is very interesting, hg. And here bishop takes d4 is probably the better move, but it's not easy to give away this bishop with this open h-file. Bishop takes d4, bishop takes d4, knight takes d4. I think the main point is that this knight will be stuck on, not stuck, but like it's an outpost on d4 after black plays e5. And even though black's king is weak, you can try to play like bishop e6 and maybe castle long. But he went for knight takes d4, which I knew was probably a bit better for white. But I wasn't sure how to play. And I think I found a very nice idea with knight c3, bishop e6, rook c1. I was trying to make knight d5 work for a long time. And so the point of this position is if black plays rook c8, white plays, there's also queen a4 check, but if white plays b3, I was worried about b5 for a long time. The idea is if I take bishop d4, knight b5, black gives queen a5 check, I move the king and just moves the bishop away, and black has incredible compensation for the pawn. So here I found a nice move, bishop f1. And basically black can't protect the knight. If queen b6, there's knight takes b5. If knight 6, I take on b5. It took me a long time to find this, but once I did, I just immediately played it because if black can't play concretely, it's just worse. So he played knight c6. And I like this move bishop e2 as well, because it stops all this knight e5 counterplay because of bishop d4. And then f4 is coming, g5 is always went by g3. You have to play passively with f6, and it's just very, very bad. So he went for queen a5, queen d2, and he played very interesting with long castle. He wants to play king b8, rook c8, and defend against the endgame. Let's say I play knight d5, he takes and plays rook h8. One of the ideas is if I play g5, he plays f6. So I went for b3 first. I wanted to see what he does here. I think he should play king b8. One important point is if he plays f5, I have gf, and a very nice move, rook h5. And g4 is unstoppable here. Let's say rook f8, g4, winning a pawn. So he went for, so he should have played king b8 here. And now if I play knight d5, you can either play the endgame with queen takes d2, king takes d2, and just sit. I know it's really bad. Or you can play queen a3. And it's not actually that easy for me to decide on what the plan is, because if I castle short, of course, there's always these h5 ideas. If I play g5, there's f6. So I probably wouldn't play knight d5 and probably just keep on sitting here because it's really hard for black to make a move. You can't play queen a3 here because of knight b5. And yeah, it's an unpleasant position. But he played h5. The idea is probably correct. He wants to get rid of this passive rook on h8. And after gh, he wants to play h4 and then maybe h3 at some point, trading off this weak pawn. But I think he missed this move, knight b5. He was probably only looking at knight d5, where he just trades and plays h4. So the point of knight b5 is that I'm threatening to trade queens. Gh, knight b5. I'm threatening to trade queens. I'm attacking the pawn on a7, and also h5 is hanging. So he basically loses a pawn here. Queen takes d2, king takes d2, a6. Here I was thinking maybe I should keep knights on the board with knight c3, but I decided on taking the pawn at the end. I mean, knight's on the board because of the weak b6 square. He took here, here. I think here he made a big mistake with this rook h8, rook h2. He should have played a takes b5, c takes b5, king d7, bc, bc. And even though I'm up a pawn, there's not much material on the board, so it's still, decent drawing chances for black. I was calculating during the game f4, rook a8, rook c2, f5 is pretty much forced, bishop g6, takes, takes. Now either d5 or rook a6, but if you play rook a6, I play f5 and g4, so probably d5. And now bishop g6 I liked. And again, I want to expand with f5 and g4, so probably has to play d4 here. I mean, I understand why he didn't go for it. He thought the counterplay on the king side would be enough instead. So bishop e2. And here he has a nice move, rook h4. This is why I spend a lot of time on bishop e2, because bishop f3 he has knight e5. And the point being, if I play some move which protects, let's say bishop d3, now he can play knight b4, which I didn't have earlier because I just play a3, but now the bishop's hanging. So I was looking at an interesting funny line here, knight c3, bishop takes c3, rook takes c3, rook takes e4, f4, trying to trap the rook. And here I think black goes bishop d7, bishop h5, f5, bishop f7. If e6, I always go back to f3, but he has bishop e6. I couldn't find a win here because the rook is not getting trapped. Bishop g6, he goes back to d7, and it's not that easy. So I think rook h4 was his bishop g6 at the end.
Yeah.
Bishop g6, bishop d7, g4.
Yeah.
Yeah, g4, e5.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely better for white, but not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so instead of knight c3, I can try f4. And now the idea for black is to play rook h2. And at least the second rank is open. So if bishop f1, there are bishop h3 ideas. If bishop f3, I missed this bishop g1 though. Bishop h2, I have bishop g1. So I'm still doing well here, okay. But at least here you can play a, b, c, b, king d7, b, c, b, c, and my bishop's passive on f1. Okay, so he played rook h2, g3. Now I was very happy. Sorry. g3, king d7, knight c3, bishop h3. I repeated once to get closer to move 40, but actually it was probably a mistake because he could have played knight e5 here and kind of, he's still in the game after knight e5, but he probably missed this c5 break, which I think objectively just wins the game because if you play dc, I have knight a4. And it's an endgame, but he's just under attack. He's losing everything on the queen side. Knight takes c5, a6 will fall, b7 will fall. And another important line was after c5, bishop g2, cd. King takes d6, I have knight a4 again. And if bishop takes e4, once again, knight c5 wins the whole queen side. So he played e takes d6, bishop g4 check, and this doesn't change anything because king d8, I have bishop b6 check. Maybe he should go king c7, but even knight d5 check and bishop f4 should be completely winning. He tried king e8, bishop c8, knight d8. Bishop f5, knight c6. I was thinking maybe I should play king d3 here, but I didn't like bishop takes c3, rook takes c3, d5. Of course, white's winning, but I still have some work to do. So I went for this bishop f5, knight c6, repeated a few times, knight d5, bishop b2, rook c2, bishop e5, and I'm really happy to find this move rook c4 because it looks a bit scary for white. Black has this bishop take g3 idea, bishop f1, but white's plan is to play bishop c8, and after rook c4, you can't really stop it. So one of the main points is if bishop takes g3, I have knight f6 check, and then wherever the king goes, I go knight g4. And you lose either the exchange or the piece. So he went for bishop f3, bishop c8, knight d8, bishop b6. One nice line to finish the game, if bishop takes g3, king e3, bishop takes f2, king takes f3 should be a pretty easy win. So rook takes f2, I take on d8. Now, of course, it's a little scary. He can move the bishop and give some checks, but if he moves the bishop somewhere, I play bishop b6, rook f3 check, king d2, and f2 is covered. And if he takes, I just go back to f5. And the king's made it. So he played knight e6, which is basically resignation. King d3, bishop h5, bishop b7, rook h1, and yeah, after we got to time control, there are no more tricks, and he resigned.
Looks like a really smooth game from start to finish, Sam. And how are you feeling about your chances in the tournament now, just half a point off the lead?
Yeah, I'm happy. I lost the game before the rest day, but it came at a really nice time, so I kind of recovered after it.
Bouncing back.
Yeah, and well, I asked Alexei Serrano this question, so I'm going to ask it to you. So tomorrow it's early morning round, well, 11:30.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that? How are you with morning rounds?
I'm not sure why we're doing that, but you know, I played so many opens in my life where the time goes from 4 p.m. to 11 a.m., so I'm used to it.
Yeah.
I'll try to sleep earlier today.
Okay. I
Prepare in
can
the
give you the
morning.
reason. There is a firework display happening just outside. So in order to not disturb you, everyone.
Oh, okay.
the
So we're
game-
playing earlier.
Exactly.
Okay.
So regardless of what happens, you can enjoy a tremendous firework display.
All right.
Yeah, and final question: are you enjoying the Isle of Man? Is it a place you're happy playing chess?
Yeah, I love coming to the Isle of Man. It's a small city here in Douglas, and just walk around. Beautiful weather. I mean, beautiful weather because I like rain. But
Say all the right things.
One of the few people to say that.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been complaining about the rain. But yeah, I mean, speaking about the weather and the place, do you have any certain routines?
I usually wake up around 10 to 11, go to breakfast at this Villa Marina, and then walk around, go to my room, prepare. That's about it.
That's about it. Okay, well,
it's working.
it is working. You are half point off the lead, and we wish you the best of luck in tomorrow's game.
Thank you.
Congrats.